Hi children, how are you? Welcome to digital class. Do you know why most of us show interest in learning science subject? Because science connects to everyday life. Science gives us opportunities and bring it to life. In today's class, we are going to learn about what is meant by science. Observe, let us enter into the topic. Children, observe the picture. Here in the picture, you have seen the two images. One picture is of a primitive man and the other picture is of a modern man. So, do you notice the difference between the primitive man and modern man? The primitive man were lived in the caves, wearing skin of animals as clothing and used the tools available in their surroundings. But the modern people are using computer, mobile phones, internet, satellite, rockets, robotics, hybrid food grains, medicines and modern tools for agriculture. Here they are all the result of ideas which originated in some human brains. We call those human brains or those people as scientists. The scientists think differently to observe and understand the nature in a specific way and invent new things. So, what is that different way? So, whatever they are observed in their surroundings, they will be think in a reasoning manner. So, why it is happening? What is the reason behind that? And that will lead to the invention of the new things. So, you could see here the picture of one of the scientists. Do you know children who is he? He is Albert Einstein. So, let us try to understand how scientists think and what they do. They follow a method called scientific method. So, in order to understand the scientific method, one should know and understand about what is science. So, here you could see some of the scientists, they are performing the experiments. Here actually what is meant by science? Here in order to know that, first of all we have to know what is the science. The word science comes from a Latin language and that word is known as scientia. That means the word science comes from a Latin word that is called scientia. The meaning for the scientia is a knowledge. But what kind of knowledge? Is it the knowledge of facts? No, it is the knowledge of organized facts, which we are going to learn now. So, what is the difference between the normal facts and the organized facts? Here that will be best explained with taking an example. So, let us see here. The another definition of the science is also there. Science is the concerted human efforts to understand better the history of the human world and how the natural world works with the observable physical evidence. So, what is that? Here you could see, I will give the brief explanation. Science is the concerted human efforts. That means the human beings are able to keep the efforts to understand the surroundings or the nature around us. And if you see what is the history from the evolution of the human world, what is the history of the human beings, how they started and how the natural world, that is our surroundings, are linked with the human world, and that will be observed and it will be providing such physical evidences. That means science always deals with the reality and the truth. The other definition of science, the science is an organized study of knowledge which is based on experimentation. That means the science is also one kind of knowledge, it deals with the doing of the experiments, and the science is the tool for searching the truths of nature and a way of exploring the world. Here you could understand what is given. Science is the tool for searching truths. That means the science always it will prove what is a fact and what not is fact. It will not be given the false predictions. That means it will be always related to the truth value, and it will have perfect proofs, and it is related to the nature, and it will bring the world exploring. So that kind of subject is our science. So here I told the organized and what is the organized part of knowledge and the normal fact. Here you could see the picture is given. Here in this picture the leaf and chloroplast is there. Just by observing the picture, what will come in your mind? Leaves are in green color. Leaves have chloroplast. Chloroplast have green colored pigment called chlorophyll. That means by observing these two images, that is leaf and the chloroplast, you could know that leaves are in green color and the leaves have chloroplast. The chloroplast have green colored pigment called chlorophyll. That means whatever you have the knowledge that is confirmed to only limited, that will comes under the unorganized knowledge. That means there is no interlink is there. Whatever the knowledge you know, there is no linking is not there in these three words. But if you see, when we convert this into whatever the knowledge you have into organized body of knowledge, so what does it will form? Let us see. The leaves are green in color. So why the leaves are green in color? Because they contain chloroplast in their cells. Okay, the green color pigment called chlorophyll gives green color to leaves. That means here in the organized body of knowledge, you could link all the items that are related to the picture. Here you know the leaves are green in color. Why the leaves are green in color? Because they contain the chloroplast in their cells. That means you could able to realize the link present between the why the leaves are green in color and what is the use of the chloroplast present in that leaves. And the green color pigment, why the chloroplast? Due to the presence of chloroplast, why they are green in color? Again you have that a green color pigment is there, that is known as a chlorophyll. That means if you have only small facts, that is generally we can say the ratifying memory. So that comes under the unorganized knowledge. But when that is related to one another, then it comes under the organized body of knowledge. So that is the difference between the organized body of knowledge and unorganized body of knowledge. Science always deals with the organized body of knowledge, that is organized facts. That means if you just have only knowledge, you are not studying the science. But if the knowledge is used to build a concept of organized facts, then it is science. What does it mean? It means, that means if you have only knowledge, that means we have not correlating with the surroundings. One word or the one another with the other link, we are not interlinking. What is the reason behind that? We are not thinking. So we have to build a concept oriented. That will comes under the organized facts, that only is related to the science. That means the term science also refers to the organized body of knowledge. Here, based on the process or methods, the science is of two kinds. What are they? One is observational science and the second one is experimental science. So what does it mean? What does this observational science and experimental science? Here you could see in the picture, that is a geologist and ecologist. So what does the geologist do? He will observe the findings that are fossils, that is the remainings of the dead remainings of the living organisms which are present some thousands of millions of years ago. So he will do the findings of those and he will observe those living creatures fossils and made conclusions. And here if you see, the next scientist is ecologist. So he will vary the what are the relation between the organisms with our surroundings. He will be dealing with that. So both these scientists, geologist and the ecologist, both are related mainly. They will study the science on basis of their observations. So that is the observational science. Here you could see the both geologists and ecologists are finding patterns in natural phenomena. That means in natural conditions in the surroundings, they will be observing whatever they see, they will observe from their surroundings and make conclusions from whatever they found in their surroundings. So basing on these observations only, they conclude and study the science. So this type of science which is learned basing on the fact observed, that is known as observational science. That means observational science is related to only the observations. On observations what we came to know, so that will be comes under this observational science. Next, second one is experimental science. Here experimental science is mainly based on the planned and organized experiments that we perform generally in the laboratory, or sometimes we will also do the activities in your laboratories. So that comes under the experimental science. The experimental science is mainly based on planned and organized experiments that we perform either in the outside or inside the, that is, chemical laboratory. So for this kind, we need to perform some experiments in addition to the observation. That we have in the observational science, we have studied only the scientists come to conclusion by observing their surroundings. But whereas in the experimental science, the conclusions will be comes by performing the experimental. That means experiments. So by performing the experiments, we conclude not only by observing, that is known as experimental science. Here you could see the experiment, the scientist conducting the laboratory, the experiments, a physicist and a chemist. So what does a physicist and a chemist do? A physicist may be recording the data of what the experiment is conducting. That means the whatever the experiment is conducting, he is able to write the data from his observations and come to conclusion, and he will be studying that science. So that type of science is known as experimental science. But whereas if you see or observe a chemist observe the time and rates of a chemical reaction. That means what is performing by adding some of the chemicals, what is the time taken for the completion of that chemical reaction. How do we know? Generally you might have studied about some of the indicators or the acids and bases. While we are doing that, by observing the color change, you came to know the chemical reaction has taken place and it has ended. So like that, the chemist also observes the time and rates of a chemical reaction by their color changes. That means how do we confirm the experimental science? The experimental science always it is related for conducting the experiments, and we can draw the conclusions from the results of the experiment. Okay. Then why do we need science? For what purpose we need the science? Let us see. Why do scientists work hard in making new discoveries and inventions? Do you understand, children? Why do scientists work hard in making new discoveries and inventions? What motivated these scientists to devote their lives to develop this new knowledge? Let us see. There are two ways by which we can explain why do we need science. That is, first one is individual perspective, second one is societal perspective. So what is this individual perspective and societal perspective? Let us see in the brief. First one, individual perspective. Generally, scientists collect the information to test new ideas or to disprove the old ones. For example, one of the theory was given by one of the scientists. That may be either it is correct or not. For example, you might have studied about the Thomas Alva Edison, who has invented the first electric bulb. He only made several attempts. In the 100 attempt, he has succeeded. Like that, whether the scientists they will be doing their individual ideas so that they overcome what are the faults are there in their experiments, and they will come out with an original idea or a new idea, or they may disprove the old one. And they will collect the information from their surroundings, they may get a new idea, and that may lead or that may disprove an old one. That means the scientist individually they will perform the experiments, they themselves. The single person or the scientist, the individually they will perform the experiment to make it either the new ideas or to disprove the old ones. Scientists become famous for discovering new things that change how we think about nature, whether the discovery is a new or a new way for an old one. So what does it mean? The scientists become famous. Why they are becoming famous? So whatever the old things or the old ideas are there, they have been disproved and they have been invented new things. For that purpose, they will become the famous, and that new things which are discovered, that will change the world, either it the surroundings of our nature, or the new way, the new discovery, it may make some of the changes even in our human welfare also. Here you may see the scientists in India and all over the world who have been working individually, and they will be finding individually, so because of which they become the famous. Not only the Indian scientists, you could see the scientists all over the world who become famous for their individual new ideas. So many scientists find their greatest joy in a previously unknown fact that explains some problems which were not explained previously, that leads to new discoveries and inventions. That means some of the scientists individually, they will feel very happy. So when whatever the idea that someone invented previously, if they have invented something new, that is the old concept which was something added extra, and that will be leading to the new discovery or invention. So that will be giving very great joy to the scientist. So for that purpose also the scientists show interest and for discovery of the and new inventions. Here the second one is a societal perspective. So why do we do science? In the second one is a societal perspective. So what is the meaning of societal perspective? Do you know scientists and nations pay the scientists to do science? Here society means ourselves. We are comes under the society. The society and nations. Nations means the government. Here they will pay the scientist for doing of science. Why they pay the money to the scientist? Because they want the scientist to do science and make them new discoveries and inventions. So why society devote some of its resources to these scientists to develop new ideas? Not only they are paying money, they are able to devote some of the naturally available resources to the scientist. So why they are doing that? The answers can be different. Let us study in detail the reasons why the society and nation pay to scientists. Here the first reason is desire to improve the people's life. Why the society or the nation they are paying the to the scientist? Why? Because it will indirectly or directly it will improve the people's life. For example, here you could see a geneticist, a scientist who is working on the DNA or the genes is known as a geneticist. A geneticist may be trying to understand how certain diseases are passed on from one generation to other, and these studies help in the discovery of a medicine or vaccines. That means a geneticist always is working for the welfare of the humanity or community. So for that purpose the societies they will pay, or the nations also pay. And here you could see the another scientist, biologist. A biologist may be tracing a pathway by which diseases are transmitted from one person to other or a community. So in the picture you could see the red color persons, they are contaminated with some of the pandemic diseases, so that when they are present in the community they will be spread to other persons. So that will be denoted, or that will be read by the biologist how these communicable diseases are transmitted from one person to other person, that will lead for the discovery of a medicine or a vaccine for that particular type of disease. And the earth scientists, they are developing better models for the prediction of naturally occurring disasters like earthquakes, landslides and volcanic eruptions. So here the earth scientists, they are always make the prediction of why the naturally occurring disasters, these volcanoes or the earthquakes or the landslide, why they are occurring and where they are occurring, what is the reasons behind that. They will be always doing the investigation, and they will develop the better models and they provide the society in order to make aware from these naturally occurring disasters and take necessary steps while these naturally occurring disasters are occurring. And any society that is concerned about the welfare of its people, which is at least any democratic society should do, will support the efforts like this to better people lives. That means the society is able to pay the scientist to better or the new investigations or the ideas for the welfare of the people or ourselves, that is a community only. Here the second reason is society's desire for economic development. So how the society's desire for economic development, they will encourage the scientist, so which directly it will make the economic development of the nation. For example, if you see, many earth scientists devote their life to find more effective ways to recover natural resources like petroleum and ores. We have the several natural resources in the earth crust like petroleum or the metals in the form of minerals and the ores. So they will be finding where they are present, that will be taken out by the earth scientists. So not only that, so they will be, these earth scientists, they will be acting the development of the economy for a nation. How? You could see the economy of a nation, it also depends upon the availability of natural resources in that country. For example, you might have seen the Dubai, which has crude oil as a natural resources. It has become one of the richest country in the world. So why? No other country in the world is having these natural resources, crude oil. It is able to export to other countries, so that it has become the one of the richest country in the world. That means the scientists are always they have been helpful for the economy development. For that purpose, the nations pay the scientist. Next, the plant scientist trying to increase the agricultural output that nutritionally and literally enrich the nation. You can see we are able to eat the hybrid varieties of the food grains or bonsai plants. That means they are able to occupy very less amount of space and we can get high yielding varieties. So that the development of such varieties will be done by the plant scientist, and that is also literally they will enrich the nation. And chemist developing new chemical substances with potential technological applications. A physicist developing new phenomena like superconductivity. In the world where nations want economic development, support such a scientist. Lastly, the last reason why the nations and the society pay to the scientist is societies support science because of simple curiosity, satisfaction and enlightenment that come from the knowledge of the world around us. So these are the three reasons why the society and the nations pay the scientist. I hope, children, you have understood the topic. So what we have learnt, let us see in brief. We have learned what is science, what is the meaning of the science, and definitions of science, types of science based on process, that is observational science and experimental science. Why do we need science? What changes has made in individual and society by science, individual and societal perspectives of science. Children, after learning this, you make a small activity. So, in order to improve your learning. So, what is this activity? Observe your surroundings. Think and write a list how, when and where we can use science and apply science in our daily life situations. That means in our daily life situations, how we are able to make use of the science subject. You can make a list of things from morning to the evening, so that you could able to know what is meant by science in our daily life. And the second one is collect the information about the scientists, those are in India, and the role played by them for human welfare. So, for worksheets, please visit SCRT website to download the worksheet from the concerned chapters for good practice and a better learning. I hope children you have understood the session. Thank you. Have a good day.